Awesome. Okay, so today is the new moon in Aquarius. I think I'm happy about it. I've been doing some research because, Aquarius has been kind of hard energy to pinpoint. And I don't know if you guys have had that same experience lately, just like it's very hard to pinpoint exactly what I'm feeling right now. Um, which makes sense. Aquarius is detached energy. That's one of the archetypes of Aquarius. So, Aquarius is also associated with a thing called the firmament. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the firmament. It's a biblical term. I know that for sure. I think in Genesis is like God created the firmament. Well, that is the atmosphere, pretty much. And Aquarius being the water bearer, but an air sign. This gets confusing for people. Some people think Aquarius is a water sign. It is not a water sign. It is the water bearer, but it is fixed air. And when I think of fixed air, I think of being stuck somewhere. And it's air, so it's the firmament, it's the atmosphere. That's what I have to relate these things to archetypes that I can understand. So that means that we have this bird's eye view going on, and it's detached. You see everything going on down below you. You see all of the things that are happening in the world. So Aquarius is the humanitarian. But with Aquarius, we're stuck up there. We're stuck in this detached space. So I'm talking about the archetype. Let's just not apply that to our own personal personalities just yet. There's so much more. But in terms of understanding the transits, I think that's the best way to understand the transits. It's detached, it's bird's eye view, but it's a bit uncomfortable. So let me explain something else about Aquarius. I mentioned it's fixed. And fixed is exactly what you would expect. It's in one place. It doesn't like to move. It doesn't have much malleability. And we all need fixed places in our life. And Aquarius being fixed means that every other fixed sign is going to be challenged. I think challenged is the right word. Uh, that includes Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio. We all have all of these signs in our chart. These are all archetypes that we embody. Leo is our joy. It is how we get attention. It's our creativity. It's our inner child, right? So that's the opposite of Aquarius. It is the engaged, creative uh, aspect of life. And Aquarius is detached. What do I think about this? Basically, Aquarius is often associated with a higher mind. Taurus is my value, what I love, what I receive. Um, and Scorpio is how I share that, my boundaries. So we all have all of this in our charts, and it's all being fundamentally challenged because we also have Uranus and Taurus, which is shifting this value system. I think that's a good way to say it. So that being said, why have I described all that? It's because there's one, two, three, four, if you count the asteroid Pallas Athena, five, six, seven objects in Aquarius right now. The last time this happened was February of 62. It happened also, when did I say? What year? Like 1580 or something, the 1500s. Please don't quote me on that. And I am recording, right? I'm not recording. That's okay. I can download it from Facebook. I'm still going to start recording here. This Mercury retrograde, y'all, that's one of the objects in Aquarius. Mercury retrograde. It's been I think the feeling I've had during this Mercury retrograde is really even with my feelings, like, really, am I feeling this? Really, are those people doing that? Really, is this life? Is this reality? So that's the overarching feeling of Aquarius, because Aquarius rules aliens. It is alien energy, meaning I don't oftentimes encounter it. It's different. It's sometimes shockingly different, shockingly detached. And Mercury retrograde there has been, I think, even more so shifting our perspectives on things, and maybe bringing us to encounters that are uncomfortable uh, with other people, Aquarius ruling groups and your tribe, with shadow work because of the connection with Scorpio, and that is deep shadow work. What is mine? What is theirs? With inner child stuff, like feeling unloved, feeling like there's no joy in your life. I mean, you could bring up all of these themes right now. So, I mean, if your car's broken down or your computer's acting weird, I was trying to get on and do this at 8:30, and it took me quite a while because there was this weird message that popped up, and then I didn't have enough space on my disk, and I was like, wow. There's a lot going on in Aquarius. And the theme of Aquarius being, you hear, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And it's utopia. And then here we are in all of this Aquarius. And I want to know, does it feel like utopia to you? In some ways, sure. There are things that there are breakthroughs that I'm having after these breakdowns that feel exhilarating. And yeah, I'm getting out of my comfort zone. But we think about 1962, and that's exactly what was going on. I mean, there were some major things. The 60s in general. It's uncomfortable and exhilarating all at the same time. Sometimes more uncomfortable. So today is the new moon here, and we are setting intentions. Now, let me bring up this other thing about Aquarius. It's ruled by Saturn in traditional astrology. Modern astrology says Uranus rules it. Uranus is a planet that I don't think it was discovered until the early 1900s. So it's not been around in our psyches very long as an object that we could see. And that's honestly why it got its association with Aquarius. And so, yeah, Uranus, sure, Uranus is in Taurus, which is Venus's territory. But Saturn makes so much more sense to me, especially right now, because Saturn is traditionally known as a malefic planet, and it causes trouble. It's the rules, it's the structures, it's the way we build our life and the things, the framework in which we build. So that is rules. And I think about when a parent says, don't touch that hot stove, and the kid gets so mad, so mad. I want to touch the hot stove. I want to learn the lesson. Then they touch the hot stove, and then you go, see, the rule was there for your own safety and for your own comfort. And the child goes, how, why did I do that? You kind of don't understand why you do the things you do, what you're rebelling against. And I think that's the theme. What am I rebelling against? Why are these issues coming up? And I can only speak from my own experience of it. So maybe some of you are just coasting and having a good time, and just like, maybe you are in the age of the utopian Aquarius. I wish that for everyone. I feel like I'm in the Saturn Aquarius right now, which is coming up against my own rules, having my structures challenged, the framework challenged, seeing how I've rebelled, seeing how I want to rebel. And is it going to be good for me if I do? These are the questions. Is it good for me if I push forward on this? So I look at every decision right now as a potential hot stove, especially if you really want it, right? Like if you're like, I'm pushing for this, if you're forcing it, just be aware that that's a possibility, and really just take stock. I mean, maybe assess your risk is a good way of looking at this. Um, Aquarius is also, like I said, associated with groups, and therefore maybe being a social pariah, meaning outside of the group, somehow, maybe too different, too innovative, too free thinking, too rebellious, because Aquarius is the rebel. And in this way, I think we're also taking a look at our friend groups, especially after the breakdown of the last year, where we pretty much got rid of all the people that we associated with, whether we wanted to or not, for a minute. And then we were forced to associate with our families only. I keep using the word force a lot, don't I? I told you I'm in a Saturn Aquarius time. But it is how I feel. So I don't know. I can't speak for you. And that is the beauty of astrology. It's a language. Someone challenged me on Twitter the other day that astrology, they said, speak to me in astrology if it's a language then. And then I said, well, the moon is conjunct Pluto and my fifth house sextile my sun. Anyway, of course, they didn't understand it because it's a language that describes reality, but we develop that meaning every day. And so, what Aquarius feels like to you right now, remember that for any other Aquarian time that we have, for any other, we will have more over the next decade. Eventually, the nodes will move into Aquarius, and we will. Saturn's in Aquarius for almost 3 years, if not 3 years. I haven't looked at the exact dates. Jupiter's there. It dips into Pisces in the summer, but it goes back into Aquarius. So the theme being, and I'm not going to get sidetracked because I just did, because I was talking about tribes and friend groups, and we were all forced to sort of get rid of that for a while. And so over the next, you could even say decade, we're going to be looking at our place in the group. And that stuff is also very present. We are very dualistically polarized right now. You're either this or you're that. It leaves very little room for nuance, which I'm going to tell you something. In the South, there is a lot of nuance. There's a lot of nuance. It blows my mind every day. You'll have someone who's very politically liberal, but who also says racist things. And then you'll have people who are conservative, who are the most kind and showing the most brotherly love, and so these labels don't necessarily fit. And then you go, well, where do I fit? And who am I? And it's going to affect your friends and the groups you belong in, and you're going to make missteps. You're going to say things that are not liked by someone and loved by another. And you're going to decide you don't love someone because they've said something or they've done something or they're in this group or that group. That's where we're at. So the other thing that Aquarius is, and this is really why the intention setting today is very important, is the future. How we do things in the future. It's funny because I've got my Instagram up going live, and I'm just being notified that some stocks that I've invested in are just dropping. The future. You can't, who knows what the future holds, right? So that is your challenge, is to think about what you want for the future, especially in terms of your values. Like, what do you really value? And I bring this up often in sessions. It's like you think you want this one thing, and what you've actually done for yourself is create a lot of work. And you're like, wait a minute, I didn't want all that work. I just wanted the thing. So be very intentional with what your intentions are today. Are you wanting this thing and then you haven't considered what it might bring? Maybe a change in your relationship, maybe a change in your career, maybe because you want to dye your hair red, your career changes. Maybe because you make a comment, you communicate a certain way, your friend group's like, I don't like hanging out with you anymore. these are the adjustments that are being made with the Taurus Aquarius squares. Actually, last night, Mercury retrograde in Aquarius was square Mars and Taurus. I was unnecessarily angry yesterday. I found myself doing that a lot, actually, as Mars is squaring these planets, being triggered and impassioned, needing to express myself, my deepest passions, my deepest reflexes to fight for myself, to fight for my value, my self-worth. Taurus is self-worth. Aquarius is the future. Are you thinking about your self-worth in the future? You have to really think about these things today. I want you to think about these things today because it's important, whether you know it or not, whether the people around you know it or not. On a new moon, we set intentions. The farmers plant by the moon. We are setting them today in what we do. We are helped. We have a little help. Venus and Jupiter are there. That's great. And they're together. They actually are making their meeting in about an hour. So note that. Make a little wish. When exactly is that? Let's see. I'll tell you exactly. Oh, dude, is it right now? It was at 9:04. They're conjunct right now. Venus and Jupiter. Venus is how we love, and Jupiter is truth. Venus is value and beauty and creativity, and Jupiter is abundance and expansion. So that's a lot of love right now. Make a little wish. And that's where our help is today. Now, Saturn's over there floating at 6 degrees, getting ready to square Uranus. We don't need to hate on Saturn. Saturn, like I said, provides the structure, the framework, and that's a part of the thing we need to honor today. Our framework, our rules. How do we want to do things in the future in terms of our rules and our structures and our, you say boundaries, the way we build our life, the things we rely on in reality, the laws that govern us. That's a big part of it, especially with Jupiter there. So Jupiter, Venus hanging out, Mercury retrogrades at 16 degrees. The moon and the sun meet at 23 degrees of Aquarius. Let me read you the Sabian symbol for 23 degrees of Aquarius. This is kind of like a word picture that explains how this degree of the zodiac translates. The word picture is: a man having overcome his passions teaches deep wisdom in terms of his experience. And I cannot tell you how perfect that is, considering Mercury just squared Mars. A man having overcome his passions teaches deep wisdom in terms of his experience. I feel like I'm living out this degree right now. So this is the constructive use to which difficult past experiences can be put as examples for those who are still striving to overcome their passions. It is the responsibility of anyone who has taken one step ahead in his evolution to help others take that step. This is true education. This is communicability. So I think that is, just hold that in whatever regard you wish for this new moon. But I really love that Sabian symbol. I think it's perfect. The things we've come through, the things we've learned about the way we are evolving, the way we love each other, the way we hate each other. There's been some pretty high passions over the last year for sure. Maybe that passion was just to get out of your walls, man. But some pretty high passions. And there's things that you've learned in that. And now it's our job to share that. That is part of the Aquarius. You have to share your creativity. This is part of it for me. This is how I'm sharing. This is how I've chosen to do it. I used to choose to do it through music, and I'm not done with that. But right now it's astrology, and I'll probably choose music. I might choose painting. photography, who knows? But that is our purpose, is to be a creative individual here in this reality. And that's how we communicate evolution to people. I love it when people argue over art, right? Is that the point? Is that the point? So I'm going to go through the rising signs very quickly and just tell you where Aquarius is for you, what house. It's helpful if you know your rising sign. Do I have it a whole sun? You can also do it by sun, but I think rising sign is always more right on. So Aries. All of this Aquarius is in your 11th house. Funnily enough, the 11th house is the Aquarian house. So the theme for you is just super magnified in terms of the groups you belong to, the way you communicate to your tribe, the future goals you have, and the Taurus stuff being in your second house of finances, values, self-worth. Those are the two areas that are really, really in creative tension together. It is sort of a challenge that requires action. So, are you saving more? Are you putting more emphasis on the groups you're in and how they support you and your self-worth? You can kind of come up with a lot of different situations for that. But if you want to look up more things, just Google the 11th house in astrology, and you'll learn a whole lot. There's so much out there. But yeah, I think the theme is future goals, hopes and wishes, your friend groups, how you're building your life there. So networking even could be a thing for Aries risings. Okay. Taurus rising. This is in your 10th house. Career, direction, legacy. Who am I in the world? How am I putting myself out there? And then the Taurus is obviously your first house, which is your identity, who you are. So these two things are in creative tension. But today you're setting intention on the career goals, on the legacy. It could even have home and emotional security implications, but definitely setting that intention for where do I want to be in the world, and how do I want to be seen? How do I want to show up? What are my new rules there? Maybe I've changed the way I looked somehow. Maybe I walk with a different swagger or something. And then people in my career see me differently, or I choose a different career. Those are some of the things that could be going on. So today, set those intentions. It's a magical day to do so. Gemini rising. This for you is in a very good place. Let me put it that way. The 9th house is truth, abundance, travel, higher education. If any of those themes have come up, that's for you. I also put philosophy, the house of the guru. That's all 9th house stuff. But when you say personal truth, what does that even mean? It can mean a lot. It can mean a lot. It can mean, down to how do I look at my religion, my beliefs in general, what I believe about other people, what my place is in the world in that way. And then Taurus is in your 12th house, which is very spiritual. It rules dreams, spirituality. It can rule escapism. So I think that's just the danger with that Taurus there. Just make sure you're not just escaping from all of it. Really go into that belief. What do I believe about reality? What is my philosophy about the future, about the people I'm around? Okay. Cancer rising. This is me. I'm a Cancer rising, and I can speak to this directly. 8th house stuff is about your boundaries, how you share yourself with people, and power, disempowerment. People will make power plays on you in this situation. So you really have to think about the intentions you're setting in terms of my boundaries, my empowerment. This could, I mean, for Cancer risings, if you've had as difficult a time as I have, man, this is a very important new moon because you're doing some very deep shadow work in the eighth house. It rules sex, death, life, transformation. I mean, investments, business partnerships, contracts. So it could even be marriage. But really, it is how you share yourself. A lot of times, I've heard astrologers talk in terms of finances. Yes, it definitely is how you share your finances as well. But also how you share the things you value, which could be your body. Rule sex. There you go. And boundaries. The Taurus stuff is in your 11th house of friend groups, and there could be some tension there. You know, maybe it's people in your community pushing on you. It could be that you have these goals for yourself and you just can't, the shadow work is not there. You don't believe in yourself enough. You feel disempowered to go after these goals. So very powerful time for eighth house stuff for Cancer risings. Okay. Leo rising. This Aquarius stuff is in your seventh house. That's, wait, no. Yeah. Leo rising, seventh house. Relationships, and not just romantic. I put friendships here, business partnerships as well. People you relate to, how you relate to the world, basically, is Aquarius for you. And Taurus is in your 10th house of career. So are the people in your life supporting you in your career legacy? Is your public reputation changing, and therefore your friend group needs to change? And it could definitely have romantic implications for you as well, especially with Venus there today at that new moon. So set intentions for the future of how you relate to people, especially if you want that to support you in your career goals, your life direction. Okay. Virgo rising. This Aquarius stuff is in your 6th house. Virgo loves the 6th house. The 6th house is how you do things every day. It's your habits, it's health, it is ritual. And so that for Virgo risings is very powerful. If you pick up a practice right now, do so today. Think about it. Think about the things you do every day. And that includes work, because it does rule coworkers as well. The 6th house also rules pets. I know that these are like seemingly random, but if you have any of these things happen in these areas, then it's important to know. So yeah, the future for yourself in terms of how you make money every day, not like the career direction and overall like how you want to be seen. This is like how you're making your cash, and the people you're working with, also your rituals, your routines, your health. So pick up a new health routine, maybe quit some bad habits, whatever, however you choose to. This is where free will comes in. I love free will. You get to choose. You work with these energies. So the Taurus stuff is in your 9th house of belief and truth. And so in some way, these two things can be challenging at odds. Maybe you've never believed what you do every day matters, or maybe you don't believe that you deserve a new health routine. Whatever, how that works is what you're going to be dealing with. So setting those intentions for daily practice of some sort. That can be very easy, by the way. You just choose to make tea at the same time every day. That's a daily practice. So make something that you already love doing a part of your everyday work, and then imbue it with some magic, with some intention, with some mindfulness. Maybe when you're drinking your water, what are you drinking in? Love? Okay. Libra rising. This is in your 5th house of joy and self-expression and inner child and children. And so you can be dealing with all of that and romance. So there, you know, this is kind of the place where I put the romantic part of relationships, because it is linked with joy and your inner child and just playfulness and creativity. So if you have any of these themes coming up, this is where you're setting intentions. The challenging parts of this astrology for you could come in your boundaries and how you share yourself with people. So I even think of maybe what creativity are you like just putting out on the internet that people can steal? You know, you have to be thinking in terms of how you set your boundaries and how you share yourself. So like, you know, are you a serial dater and you're just sharing yourself with people all the time? Um, I mean, maybe sexually, maybe just you're inviting them into your home and it's just too much. You need to draw boundaries. You are you. Don't forget that. You own you. And it's important to be discerning in who you let share in that. So that's just a message that came through for Libra risings. I don't plan any of this ahead of time. It just is what it is. So that's what came through. And so someone needed to hear that. Anyway, set your intentions on your creativity and joy. You really want to be in your heart for this new moon and maybe doing something creative, whatever that is for you, and really attending to the inner child. Because I didn't mean to preach on that weird preaching thing I just did. Okay. Scorpio risings. Ooh, this is a deep place for Scorpio risings. This is in your fourth house, which is home, family, roots, ancestry, your emotional security, not super easy places to look at yourself and to look at your framework and to be thinking about the future, unless you're thinking about it in terms of home. Home is a big signification for the fourth house. So if you're thinking of moving, that's why Aquarius is there. But yeah, is your home space comfortable for you? And Taurus is in your seventh house, which is relationships. So are the people sharing your home, supporting you emotionally? I would set intentions for your emotional security. You know, what do you find comforting? And are the people in your life honoring that? Are they giving back? Also, if your home space needs spiffying up, this is a good time to do so. This is this new moon in your fourth house. Also, the fourth house rules how you nurture yourself, so self-care, and it rules the idea of the mother. So maybe reparenting yourself as well as a part of this. All right. Sagittarius rising, this is in your third house, which is communication, how you think, the decisions you make every day, your local community, short trips. It really is sort of like, what am I doing with my life every day? How am I making these decisions? How am I communicating myself? Am I speaking the way that I really want things to be? So self-defeating speech, self-defeating thoughts, we're setting intentions to get rid of that. Let's just not do that anymore. And then Taurus is in your sixth house of health and everyday life. So ritual, and maybe those two things working in tandem. One adjusts, you want to have more power over your decision making and more power over your thoughts. So introduce a daily practice. Maybe your health is making you think differently about life. Those two things are just in an adjustment around each other. So definitely set intentions for speaking your truth and decision making and the way you think, especially if you want a different perspective on something or want to just get your mind out of some cyclical worrying thoughts. This is a good new moon to make an intention to do that. Capricorn rising, this is in your second house of finances, values, self-worth. So you are really setting intentions for that right now. And maybe the Aquarius is having you consider what that is. Where are you rebelling that you don't need to be rebelling in your financial world? Or where do you need to rebel? Maybe for your own self-worth. That's really what you're dealing with here. And then Taurus in your fifth house is joy, and you have some new value coming to the surface here. Creativity, children. Maybe something about that is shifting your financial world. They're both working together and in tandem. So when you set intentions, this is for financial freedom, for freedom in your self-worth, for abundance. That's what you're doing. All right. Now, Aquarius rising. Well, this is you. This is your first house. You're setting intentions for your identity, for your authenticity, showing up as your true self. I mean, that's just the task that's on your plate. No big deal, right? But yeah, good time if you feel like changing the way you look or changing the way you dress or changing the way you demand people look at you when you walk in a room. Maybe the things you identify with as well. So like if you used to like country music and Morgan Wallen pissed you off, then you don't like it anymore. Now you're a punk rocker. I brought that guy up because he's funny. It's that whole thing's ridiculous. I think he is ridiculous. Some of the things he does is not funny, but he's ridiculous. Anyway, that was an aside. Sorry, Aquarius Rising. Makes sense for Aquarius Rising though. Um, so yeah, identity. I got off track for that one. Identity, authenticity, who you are, and maybe if you identified with something, you don't anymore. Taurus is in your fourth house of home, emotional security. And so that could be challenged in some way. I mean, and if you think about changing your identity, your emotional security is going to be fundamentally challenged. It's hard to change your hair color to bright red and walk into a place and everyone looking at you and you feeling emotionally insecure about it. Just an example. But home as well. So think about home in terms of your intention setting. But I think whenever you go into this and like you want to set intentions for who you are, place yourself in the future, who you want to be. That's who you are. Okay. Sorry about going off track. Aquarius rising, Pisces rising. Whoo, buddy. You are just probably floating, honestly, right now, because Aquarius is in your 12th house. That's dreams, escapism, spirituality, confusion, disillusionment, illusion, rose-colored glasses. Those are all the themes for the 12th house. Do you like that? I'm not going to tell you some of the more dark themes because I think that came from the dark ages, and I don't think the 12th house rules prison for everybody. But I mean, in terms of a metaphorical prison, perhaps you're setting an intention to get out of that. For me, the 12th house really rules our background programming. Like if we were a computer, we do have things running in the background at all times. And so you're really being upgraded, Pisces risings, in this like spiritual way. So I would say setting intentions for spiritual direction, for your dreams to a certain extent, and maybe that's dreams you have when you're sleeping, but also maybe the dreams you have for your life. The Taurus stuff is in your third house, which is how you think. So if this is a confusing time, really what I think you want to set intentions for is grounding, because that 12th house stuff is just hard. It's just a lot of spiritual processing. So be very gentle with yourself, Pisces rising. It is heavy spiritual work. And I know that word is very general, spiritual, but the nature of this area is hard to describe. I mean, that's literally what it is described as. It's kind of like this ethereal inspiration is a word I would put here. The muses. So that's where you're setting intentions. Maybe you're setting intentions for more inspiration in your life or for greater understanding, but it's also a very powerful place for that reason. So practices, rituals for you, routines, that's a good thing. But maybe grounding as well. And hey, hopefully it's the newest version of your personal app that you're installing. All right, so that's through the rising signs. As far as the future goes, once the moon hits around after 1 hits the sun, it moves pretty quickly into Pisces, which is an energy I was just talking about, which rules dreams and kind of gives us this spiritual sort of end to the week. Maybe a little confusing. I feel the confusion coming in already. I think that's also kind of Aquarian, but let's see what else changes that's pretty important to talk about. The sun moves into Pisces as well on next Thursday. And Mars and Venus, it looks like, are squaring. So that's the masculine and feminine kind of in this the way we act and the way we receive in this tension. Relationships might be weird around that time, and that's next Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't know if they make an exact square, but it sure does look like it's square by degree. The first quarter square of the moon is always an adjustment, so I do want to talk about that date. That is going to be February 20th. That's also the end of Mercury retrograde. When Mercury is moving backwards, there is a day in which it's sandwiched in between Venus and Jupiter, and that day is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Mercury retrograde is not as much of a troublemaker that day because two benefics are enclosing it. And then Venus moves on, and after Valentine's Day is when we have that Mars square Venus, and then the first quarter square of the moon, the 20th, and Mercury retrograde goes direct on the 20th. And that might be kind of a wonky day. It's a Saturday. Be easy with yourself, especially in terms of like decision making, communicating, that sort of thing. And then the next date before for the full moon, that's important, is the night of the 25th. Venus moves into Pisces, and that will be very nice. We'll have a little, not that Venus and Aquarius has been any trouble. It's helpful having Venus there, but Venus and Pisces is just such a magical energy to me. So I'm looking forward to that. And then just after that, we have the full moon. So that takes care of the future. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week, and that your new moon intentions are, they just come true for you. I really do wish that for you. And that you feel loved and supported, and that you find the people that will support you in your life, and the tribe that you wish to have, and the future goals that you're trying to accomplish. I wish all the best for that. Have a good one.